Welcome to our continuing journey in the adult ed ministry of Grace United Methodist Church in Winfield, Kansas. We're in our fourth week of exploring characteristics of agape love according to the life and teachings of Jesus. The first 3 weeks we've looked at kindness, giving, and suffering. And as we reflect on these three, it just becomes obvious that agape love is all about human relationships, how we relate to each other, to be kind rather than cruel, to give of oneself to others instead of garnering everything for our own abundance more than we need, to be willing to experience suffering and hardship for others. These characteristics of agape love are visible, they're noticeable. We don't need a definition to understand agape love. All we need to do is sort of open our eyes and see these characteristics in persons who choose to follow Jesus. Now, the visibility of agape love is apparent in all of the descriptions of the life and teachings of Jesus. One of my favorite descriptions of Jesus is that he preached what he practiced. Say that again. He preached what he practiced. His message often focused on the miracle of forgiveness. He preached about forgiving 7 times 70, and that in the language of the day meant infinity, unlimited forgiveness without limitations. This message was received as revolutionary and transforming in the life of Jesus. But what's amazing, that was not a new idea. It became revolutionary because he taught about it in the parables he shared. He forgave the adulterous woman. He forgave those who crucified him. He practiced forgiveness, and he preached what he practiced. And this characteristic for me is best described in the word authenticity. Jesus was authentic. His outward life reflected his inward beliefs. Another way of saying it is Jesus behaved his beliefs. Yep, this fourth characteristic is authentic. I was a part of a classroom exercise a long time ago, and the professor asked the class to identify the behavior that Jesus condemned more than any other. Make a long story short, the class members, including Blake, named behaviors which were those which were sort of our favorite targets of immoral behavior. We all had our favorite. But in response, the professor shared that in the life and teachings of Jesus, the behavior that Jesus identified and condemned more often than any other was hypocrisy. And hypocrisy is the opposite of authenticity. Hypocrisy is pretending to be someone other than who we are. Hypocrite was the description of the actor in the Greek drama. And the hypocrite, the actor, was the one who would take a mask, put the mask over their face, and play one part, and then put the mask down, grabbed another mask to play another role, pretending all the way through. Pretending to be someone, playing a role. That's what the hypocrite is all about. And Jesus often identified and referred to the designated leaders of the religious community as hypocrites because they pretended to be kind, but they were really cruel. They pretended to be givers, but in reality were garnering power and wealth for their own selfish abundance. They pretended to suffer, but in reality they caused others to suffer. That's the hypocrisy that Jesus named. And agape love has no room for pretending. A characteristic of agape love is authenticity. We were just months into our 3-year residence and graduate school housing. We were becoming friends with those who were strangers. Late one evening, there was a knock on the door, and we got the message. Rap is dead. They lived right above us. Rap was the short name of Rappacelli, a student who lived right above Karen and myself, and he died suddenly in that apartment. In the midst of shock, confusion, bewilderment, a man by the name of Franz came. He embraced, he listened, he affirmed any response that any one of us had. His presence was healing grace. I'd never met Franz before that night, but in my next 5 semesters, I signed up every semester for an elective course taught by this beloved professor. I listened. I learned so much. Why? Because he taught what he practiced. He was the only professor that came that night in the middle of the night. All the professors were immediately notified. He not only came, but he stayed until sunrise. He sat on the stairway, and it was not a comfortable place to sit because he wanted to be available. He was present for others, for us. Quite frankly, I don't remember a lot about what Franz taught and preached, but I can tell you how he lived. Visible and noticeable, a life of agape love, a life of authenticity. His authenticity is what set him apart. His agape love transformed lives. I didn't take any class from Franz on the subject of pastoral care. That was not his field of study. But what I learned from Franz that night about pastoral care far exceeded what I learned in many classroom hours of study and deliberation on that subject. It was his authenticity that made him a source of transformation in the lives of others. See, Jesus often lived and taught that a life of pretending to be someone we are not is a lonely road towards destruction, because pretension destroys human relationship. Authenticity creates healing human relationships. Yes, in the place of pretending, Jesus lived and taught authenticity, a way of transforming human relationships by living a life of agape love for others. So we add authenticity to kindness, giving, and suffering as characteristics of agape love. For your thought and conversation, what are your personal experiences of persons a la Franz who are portraits of being authentic? What are your personal experiences of hypocrisy destroying human relationships? What makes pretending to be someone we are not so appealing? Thank you for being a part of our journey.